Luxury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
Yeah, this has been a dream come true. As we've gone through this process, this was the only one. This was the only one that we saw, man, this could be a place that we could be here for a while, right? This is the type of place that ultimately you want to try to help and build and make it better. And that's why you coach. You coach to try to help players reach their highest potential to win.
This was a moment of progress, optimism, and confidence that we will achieve the ultimate goal as long as we have the right man. And number two, that man was Liam Cohen. Liam's outstanding body of work speaks for itself. Quarterback development is the bedrock of modern NFL, and Liam has delivered that wherever he's coached.
Hey guys, this is Liam Cohen, just touched down in Jacksonville. Let's get this thing started off right here. 3, 2, 1.
1010XL 92.5 FM presents Jaguars Today with your hosts Mike Dempsey, Tony Smith, and Dylan Denmark.
All right, good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday. Welcome into Jaguars Today. I hope that ultimate goal means the Lombardi Trophy, Tony, and not just filling up the new stadium on a weekly basis. But, Liam Cohen said this is the one. It's the one you had a chance to go to. But, look, I think it's a good spot for him. I'm excited to see what the Jags do over the next, 48 hours or so to figure out who the next GM is going to be. Hopefully 36 hours or less on that front. As two of the interviews completed yesterday, Tone, as Ian Cunningham, who many think is the favorite. I don't know if he's the favorite or not, but many have suspected he is the favorite for a while, along with Josh Williams, both interviewing for the job yesterday. And we'll get James Gladstone, our own Ethan Waugh, and John Eric Sullivan completing their in-person interviews, hopefully today. And maybe it stretches into tomorrow. And hopefully we'll have a new GM at some point tomorrow for the Jacksonville Jaguars. But, Combine coming up. I don't have this sense of dread. People said, they're not going to be able to have a staff together. There's all the scouting guys are still there.
Yeah, they're here.
We don't know how many front office people they're going to hire additionally anyway, right? There wasn't much there beyond Trent Baalke with Ethan Waugh. Ethan Waugh may still be part of the organization.
Sure.
Even if he doesn't get the GM job. So you've got some people in place. That's not a major concern for me.
No, me either. I do want to know, was whoever was taking the photos as Tony Baselli was walking in with both of them yesterday saying, smile, guys. The camera's here. You got to smile.
Right.
That kind of thing.
Did they make him walk down the hall more than once if they didn't get a clear shot?
Yeah, I don't know what any of the details on any of that are. I have enjoyed watching Jaguars Twitter go that's nice, right? To watch guys seem to be excited about walking into the building, I guess. All right.
You know what the weird thing is that people outside of Jacksonville think it's weird that the Jags social media team is updating the fan base on, all right, here's interview with this guy completed.
I don't know why every team couldn't do this. This is easy.
And even if you don't do it, what is the harm of doing it? The Jaguars are out of control. What? What are you talking about? They're just keeping their fans informed. Yeah. Their fans want to know. This has been a move, a change they've been clamoring for, and so here are the candidates. And I think it's, just what's the harm? I don't see any particular drawback to it.
No, there is no drawback to it. It's one of those things that when you see someone do it, I don't know why every fan base wouldn't just be going, why didn't everyone do this?
Right? Why didn't our team do that?
Right? It's not a big deal. Just why? Are they getting that, and why can't our guys do it? It's easy. You got those guys in the building anyway.
All they're working. Here was the interview. It was done. We're done. As scheduled. Yes, we all know interviews eventually come to an end, and when they're over, there we go. Interview completed.
And I don't know why, from that perspective, for all 32 teams, when they see something like that, and everyone who's running that kind of account, right? If you are running the social media for one of the NFL football teams, all you're trying to do is come up with something at any time to draw some kind of traffic towards whatever you're doing.
Right.
And so this is easy, right?
Right. If you don't like it, don't.
Yeah.
Don't.
There's no negative to it. it's all just, hey, people can engage with this. Yes, they can. Why wouldn't everyone do it?
Then again, I have my own things that bother me that probably don't bother anybody else. So everybody's bothered by something different. This is just a weird thing to me to get all worked up about. I see it every day that the Jags post something because they've been doing this for a while, all throughout the coaching search and the GM search. Interview requested of this guy. Interview, and so
it's
you're
been
like,
very open.
Yeah, right. Here's the list of candidates. It's 10, 11 strong, and you know who the names are. There's no secret. Did they talk to this guy? Why didn't they talk to that guy?
We've covered enough of these to know it's generally like, are they talking to? I think they did. Maybe. Maybe, right? Have they? I don't know. Well, with the process this year, we've known. Like step by step, we've known who they're interviewing, when they did it, as it's going on. It's fine. That's good.
Well, whomever becomes the GM of the Jaguars, in conjunction, because again, they report directly to Shad Khan or will. So will Executive Vice President Tony Vaselli. So will head coach Liam Cohen, right? So there's no one guy clearly ahead of all the other guys in the pecking order, but whomever's making those decisions, whether it's a group decision or whatever, they're going to have a little bit more salary cap space to play with than expected this year. The salary cap is projected to hit anywhere between $277.5 million and $281.5 million, which is up from last year at $254. So you go, wait a minute, $254 to $277 on the low end. Did we just gain $23 million in cap space? No, not really, because most of the times you saw the Jags projected with, like, let's say $33 million in cap space, it was based on a projection somewhere around $271 million anyway. It just went up more than they were anticipating. But whenever you see those projected cap space, it's based on an educated guess of where the cap is going to go in a particular year.
Sometime shortly,
I think the biggest impact, Tony, are on the teams that are up against the cap.
Yeah.
Like if you're the Jags, oh, great, I have $5 million extra. So do the Patriots, who already had $120 million roughly in
everyone
cap
does.
Space.
The teams that were right on the edge of it, they got a little more space.
Maybe they have one or two less guys that they need to cut or renegotiate with, makes it a little bit easier for them. But what it also does, if you're a team like Cincinnati and you're trying to retain T. Higgins under some format, whether it's give him a second consecutive franchise tag, which the Bengals have never done, or get him signed to a long-term deal along with getting new deals done with Jamar Chase and Trey Hendrickson. Now you've got a little bit more wiggle room on how you can stack those contracts and absorb a little bit more cap hit now than instead of deferring everything for down the road. So there may end up being a handful of players that we had hoped would become available. And this happens every year, but maybe even more so now with the unexpected additional $6 to $10 million in cap space. We saw a story yesterday that Chris Godwin's representatives are huddling up with the Buccaneers trying to get a deal done. They pushed back. He had a cutoff date in his contract that would have made him basically free of the Bucs, but now they pushed that date back a little bit to give themselves time to negotiate a contract extension. He's a guy that we talk about, Tony. All right, the Jags do. How big of a need is wide receiver for this football team? Well, going into 2025, you can make the argument, okay, I got Brian Thomas Jr. If I've got Christian Kirk back, I've got hopefully an emerging Parker Washington. Maybe Gabe Davis will give us something more than he gave us last year. Maybe we need to add one somewhere along the line. But for this year, it may not be that pressing. But you get beyond 2025. And what's the plan, right? Because that's one potential scenario. Another one is they do move on from Christian Kirk. Dan Graziano of ESPN said he thinks it's 75% likelihood that the Jags move on from Christian Kirk to create cap space. Now, that may be barring a renegotiation, which lowers his number, whatever the case may be. But if every team wants T. Higgins, only one's going to get him. Maybe he stays with the Bengals, okay? So T. Higgins, let's say, not available because he does remain in Cincinnati. Well, then you pivot. Who's the next guy? Well, it's Chris Godwin for a lot of people. And, who did he play for? Well, he played in a Liam Cohen offense last year. And, by the way, had like 50 catches in the first 6 weeks of the season. He was as prolific in terms of catches, yards, everything, productivity as Jamar Chase was. They were like the two leading receivers in the National Football League at the time. And then he got hurt, and that was it for his season. But, Chris Godwin would be a phenomenal fit here, I would suspect, in Jacksonville. But, again, when you hear that they're pushing things back, that gives them more time to get things worked out. That means there's some incentive to do that. These things can fall through, but at this point in time, I wouldn't count on Chris Godwin making it to free agency. I think your free agent wide receiver options are going to be pretty limited this year, and I don't think the Jags are going to be swimming in that pool unless they could get one of those top guys. And even then, that might not be their plan, but I don't see them making a big push for a lower-level wide receiver.
No, I don't either. If you look beyond those top two guys, Amari Cooper, Stephon Diggs, DeAndre Hopkins, Marquise Brown, Darius Slayton.
A lot of talk that Marquise Brown might go back to Kansas City. Hopkins, I think, aged a lot this year. I don't know what to make of Amari Cooper going to Buffalo and being completely unproductive.
Yeah.
Who was the second one you mentioned after him?
It was
Cooper.
Stephon Diggs.
Diggs to me is like, you always got to micromanage him, make sure he's getting his targets. Slayton's actually an interesting guy.
Interesting,
right? Because I think he can stretch the field. He's been a pretty productive player. He's not going to break the bank. I would think if they're in, if Godwin and Higgins don't shake loose from their teams, that might be the guy on that list that they'd have some interest in. I think Amari Cooper still thinks he should be paid probably among the elite wide receivers in the National Football League.
And finishing out maybe the top 10 on the list I'm looking at here at that spot, Keenan Allen at 8, Deontay Johnson at 9.
Man, I mean.
And Mike Williams at 10.
How bad do you have to be listed beyond Deontay Johnson? Who the hell's going to take a chance on Deontay Johnson, who warranted his welcome with multiple teams in 1 year, 3 different teams in 1 year?
Yeah, that's a crazy year.
After getting kicked out of Pittsburgh, where they tolerated Antonio Brown because Antonio could play.
Yeah.
And he produced. And here's the thing, Deontay Johnson did produce to a pretty good level. How much of a pain in the ass was he that Pittsburgh moved on from him?
Well, Pittsburgh moved on from him, and he was doing all right early this year in Carolina.
Early.
And then they said, nope, we're done with this. Right? Like at some point they just said, nope, we're done with dealing with whatever this is. Yeah.
Right. Went to Baltimore, did nothing. Went to Houston, did nothing. And everybody just quickly tired of whatever act it was.
And Baltimore picked him back up on the off chance that someone will sign him.
So I'm not the guy who wants to be the reclamation project with Deontay Johnson, or see if he's a reclamation project, but not here in Jacksonville at least. All right, today we continue our series of polls for the week, trying to determine the worst first-round draft pick in Jaguars history. Got 800 votes yesterday. That's good. I'm hoping for 800 today, because we've gotten at least 800 in each of our 2 previous polls. That'll give us a pretty representative sample of the folks who are voting here. And these are the most recent options. Which of these 3 out of this trio was the worst first-round pick by the Jaguars? Was it Taven Bryan in 2018? Could have had Lamar Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Was it C.J. Henderson in 2020? Could have had C.D. Lamb. Could have also had Justin Jefferson and Caleb Von Chason, who went later in that round. Could have had Justin Jefferson. You could have had, imagine if you had Lamar Jackson with CeeDee Lamb and Justin Jefferson, Tony, and they had the picks to make all that happen without making a single move around the board. Just let it happen.
Yeah.
Let Lamar sit for a year, learn for a year, come in. He takes over. You realize, man, we shouldn't have sat him for a year. He goes out and wins you a couple of MVPs with those guys as his weapons on the outside. Now we'd be talking about salary cap help. But you know what? We would probably win a lot of games in the interim with that. So all of these guys have cost the Jags opportunities at much, much better players on the big stage there. So Taven Bryan, C.J. Henderson, Caleb Von Chason are your options for today. Tomorrow we'll do the runoff poll that will take yesterday's winner or loser, however you look at it. Blaine Gabbert, put R.J. Soward in there from earlier in the week, and maybe we'll take the best finishing second-place finisher. Although if you don't win your early poll, I don't see how you're going to win the runoff poll, right? So anyway, C.J. Henderson with the early lead in this one today. But you can vote on social media at MD_1010XL. Don't forget, at 1010XL Fat Tony and at 1010XL Denmark.
Let's go, CJ.
Oh! There we go. You probably, maybe today and tomorrow, you'll be able to use that one, is what I'm thinking.
Let's go, CJ.
That's right. Get good use out of it. How are you this morning, Dylan Denmark?
I'm good. I saw that on TikTok. I was like, I'm using this today.
All right, explain what's the genesis of that on TikTok.
It was some girl. She just said it. It was some music video. And some dude uses it on TikTok when he's making like NCAA videos.
Okay.
He's playing a video game. And his running back is CJ, and he'll just play
What is the typical length of a TikTok video?
30 seconds.
But
to
there's
a minute.
There's no limit, right?
No.
Like if I wanted to make a 7-minute video, if I had TikTok, I could do that.
I think it's a limit of 2 minutes.
Oh, is it 2 minutes?
I think so. Yeah, but so they'll make a thread and they'll
2 minutes or less.
Yeah.
It seemed like for a while everything on TikTok was like 10 seconds long, or was that some other platform?
That was Vine.
Oh, was that Vine?
Vine 10 years ago was like 7 seconds.
Was that what it was? 7 seconds?
Mm-hmm.
Does that still exist, or is that long gone?
Long gone.
Okay.
Long gone.
Old man just figured out about the social media platform, Tony, that's been gone for a decade, you know? So anyway, we'll extol the virtues of MySpace later on in the program today. Gus Logue going to join us today from Big Cat Country and our own in-house guy here at 1010XL. We'll talk about the free agent landscape for the Jacksonville Jaguars in 2025. Gene Fournette, next hour, about an hour from now, we'll talk about the offseason as a whole. Does Gene have a particular lean towards one of these GM candidates from the Florida Times Union? We'll get into that. We'll take your calls. If you want to get in today, it's 641-1010, same number for the text line, designed by Lifetime Enclosures. Gave out those social media handles. Hit us up in the YouTube virtual studio chat as well if you're so inclined there, and we are off and rolling. You're listening to Jaguars Today on 1010XL and 92.5 FM. Everybody, Mike Dempsey here for Dandy Foods, sandwiches, subs. You know the drill. Dandy is going to warm you up, though, in this cool weather. And I say cool, it's not cold here in Northeast Florida, but not going to get up into the 60s today. So if you need a little something to warm your belly, why don't you swing into a gas station, fill up your tank, and then fill up your stomach with some delicious offerings from Dandy, like a Boom Boom steak sub, flame-broiled beef strips, seasoned, marinated, gluten-free, no artificial ingredients. Add a little Swiss cheese, some of that Boom Boom sauce, and bam, delicious anytime, but it warms you up when it's cold. Look, it doesn't have to be the Boom Boom steak sub. You find the Dandy variety that you like. The hardest thing is deciding which one to start with. Over 30 varieties generally per gate station. So swing in, check it out, and see what options are available to you, from breakfast items, full line of sandwiches and subs, great salads, protein packs for on the go. They got a little bit of everything. If you're hungry in Duval, do what I do. Go out and make yours a Dandy. Do it today.
Jaguars Today from the Renewal by Anderson Custom Windows and Doors Studios. Because radio is supposed to be fun.
Feels kind of like the first day of spring training for Little League here.
1010XL.
Don't miss the Players' Championship, March 11th through 16th at TPC Sawgrass. This can't-miss event features a variety of activities for every fan to enjoy, from delicious bites to the Sawgrass Splash. There are endless fan enhancements that will make for a memorable experience. Plus, watch the top PGA Tour players, including back-to-back champion Scotty Scheffler, take on the iconic stadium course featuring the famous Island Green. Tickets available at theplayers.com.
Get a healthy start in 2025. The Florida Department of Health in Duval County is here to encourage you to get healthy and stay healthy this year. They have a dedicated team who are committed to providing quality care. The goal is to protect, promote, and improve the health of you and your family. Visit duval.floridahealth.gov to learn more about their health programs and services. That's duval.floridahealth.gov.
Dan Hicken and Jeff Prosser start the week by giving the ball to the best back in Duval.
And off, Fred Taylor.
Monday morning running back with Fred Taylor is fueled by Epstein & Robbins DUI defense firm and Monahan Jewelers on 1010XL.
I'm Rick Julius, a partner at Cordell & Cordell. Divorce is more than just a legal process. It's a life-changing event that can impact your future, finances, and your relationship with your children. You've worked hard to build a life that you're proud of, and you deserve a legal partner who will work just as hard to protect it.
Offices in Jacksonville. Schedule an appointment with one of Cordell & Cordell's attorneys. Lisa Cargis, Florida resident partner. Rick Julius, licensed in Pennsylvania only. Online at CordellCordell.com.
Jaguars Today Thursday is towed by Cannons of Jacksonville. Home is where your story begins. And at Donovan Air Electric and Plumbing, we're here to make it the healthiest, most comfortable place it could be. Whether it's fresh, clean air, dependable plumbing, or reliable power, we take care of it all. From routine maintenance to state-of-the-art solutions, Donovan keeps your home running smoothly. Because at Donovan, we believe your home isn't just where you live, it's where your health meets comfort. Call Donovan Air Electric and Plumbing at 904-270-COOL or visit us online. Let's make your home healthier, safer, and better together.
Follow Florida Gators men's basketball on 1010XL. Brought to you by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And by Renewal by Anderson, the official window and door replacement partner of the Florida Gators.
Mia here. Since 1982, Closets by Design has specialized in creating dream spaces for every budget. My designer, Frances, made the process so easy. She came to my house and designed a beautiful walk-in closet that's already so incredibly functional for me and old Beau Valentine. Call today to schedule your free in-home consultation at 1-800-293-3744 or visit closetsbydesign.com. And take advantage of extended savings this month. Get 40% off and another 15% off with 18-month special financing.
Hi, I'm Karen, owner of Clay Solar Installation Partners, your local women-owned solar company. At Clay Solar, we're more than just panels and power. We're about people. We make the switch to clean energy simple, stress-free, and built to last. If you've had a bad experience with solar in the past, we can help. We specialize in dependable solutions and top-notch customer service, so you can finally enjoy the savings and sustainability you deserve. Schedule your free consultation at claysolar.com.
When you're experiencing sudden, unexpected dental pain, the last thing you want to hear is that your dentist can't see you until next week. That's why I'm so glad I found Harbor Dental Care. Whenever I call, they always find a way to see me within 24 hours, and they can usually fix whatever's wrong the same day. Plus, they have locations throughout Jacksonville, so no matter what side of town I'm on, I can always count on the same great care. If you want to find a dentist who believes in treating people right, learn more at harbordental.care. That's HARBOUR dental.care.
Yo, it's your boy E to the T here, and I know that getting into an accident is stressful, but getting the proper care doesn't have to be. That's why I recommend McGowan Spinal Rehabilitation Center. Even if you're at fault, your insurance covers you. And remember, you have the right to choose your own doctor. Even a minor accident can cause whiplash for years if it goes untreated. So don't wait. Call the auto accident experts at McGowan Spinal Rehabilitation. Your recovery starts today.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Jaguars Today on 1010XL.
All right, somebody asked Tony on the text line, designed by Lifetime Enclosures, 641-1010. If you want to text the program, we may ignore it. Depends on what you have to say, quite frankly. They asked this: how's the draft look when it comes to receivers? I almost feel like getting a third or fourth rounder would be more valuable than Gabe Davis. That may be the case, but I don't know anybody who's going to give you a pick to take on Gabe Davis's contract. Now, I'd have to look at it and see what they would be taking on and what's already, been cleared by the Jags in that first year.
Yeah.
I don't think you'd get a third or a fourth rounder for Gabe Davis. I think you'd get maybe a seventh rounder, if that. And it may be worth that if the salary cap implications worked out. Jags need help themselves. And what we're being told by the draft pundits, the people that break down a lot more film than we do, is that top heavy. I think Matt Miller said maybe 5, maybe even 6 guys in the first round, maybe nobody on day 2, and meaning second and third round values out there. So, very Ted McMillan and Luther Burden and Amika Ibuka, there aren't many beyond that are going to be considered day 2 values. So I think you're going to be really rolling the dice on who can make an impact. When we do these mock drafts on Wednesday, I sometimes say, okay, let's see if there's a receiver here, like in the 4th or 5th round, and they're all just like, I don't know. Nothing really stands out as like a hidden gem or anything like that. And quite frankly, I mean, they could go any number of ways with that first pick, Tone, but I don't think it's the most likely thing that they're going to go wide receiver there.
No, I don't think so either. And, talking about the combination of the situations with Gabe Davis and Christian Kirk, right, make the Gabe situation that much more complicated because the dead cap number is $20 million. It's $20 million for them to walk away from Gabe Davis as opposed to the, 6 that he's actually costing them under the cap. The difference.
It would hurt
too
them
big.
to not have him.
Right. So I understand fans being like, what do we have to do to move past Gabe Davis given the way last year went? It's not realistic that they're going to move past Gabe Davis this year. He's going to overwhelmingly likely be a wide receiver for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Now, a number of things can happen. Gabe Davis could play a lot better, right? It would be hard not to.
He had plenty of opportunities to do that last year.
Sure he did.
It's one of my bones to pick with a site like Pro Football Reference. I don't know where they get their drop stats from. I do not know. But they have Gabe Davis with 0 drops last year.
Can't trust that.
How is that possible?
Yeah, you can't trust that. And
right.
Look, that doesn't mean the Jags couldn't draft like Jalen Noel, right? Just a guy to pick a name out of this rookie class. Let's say they spend one of their 4th-round picks on him.
Yeah.
And he comes in, and I could see him moving ahead in the pecking order, rather quickly. Or I could also see, look, if they just got the Gabe Davis that he was in Buffalo, a deep threat who would score you 6 or 7 touchdowns simply because he's going to hit some big plays. Attention is drawn up there by Stephon Diggs, down here by Bryan Thomas Jr.
He was doing a good enough job getting open. Like, that wasn't the issue for Gabe Davis last year. He just didn't hold on to the football. He could have had a pretty big year. And honestly, his first year here, he just didn't hold on to the ball.
Look, sometimes your improvement on your team isn't who you added. It's who plays better.
Yeah.
It's simply that. Who's healthy or healthier, and who performs better, he's going to have to perform better.
None of this makes me any less frustrated with what Gabe Davis did in his first season here in Jacksonville last year, but it does. They're not going to be able to get out of the contract. So if the mistakes that he was making last year can go away, they're fine. With Gabe playing at $6.5 million,
right? As
no
like
big
their
deal.
Third-ish wide receiver,
like that's no big deal. It's if he is the same guy that he was last year. No, he's just not going to play a whole lot. They'll find other guys to get on the field.
Right, and Gabe Davis's presence, by the way, would not stop me from investing in the position at all. But that doesn't mean I think they're going to invest with the 5th pick in the draft. No. You know, I look. How do I know? They don't even have a GM, so I can't tell you definitively what they're going to do with that pick. But I would think line of scrimmage, or possibly corner. Although you start getting into that. Well, if corner. Why not receiver, right? They're kind of the mirror images of each other out there. So who knows what they're going to do. But to answer the question, it's not beyond, like, once you get to the Jags pick at 36, probably nobody's sitting there that's worth that selection.
Yeah.
And there may not be anybody worth it in the 3rd round when you got a couple of picks either. And, so at least that's what the pundits are saying right now.
If you want to see that kind of thing happen with the roster, then you are likely to be a big Ted McMillan at 5 fan.
Sure.
And I can understand it. He's,
I wouldn't hate
high
it.
on my list.
Right. I wouldn't hate it. I mean, look, there are a lot of ways to build it, right? And then we've talked about it. It's deep. It seems like interior offensive line, defensive tackle, or deeper positions in this draft. So if you feel like you got to get a receiver, that may be the spot where you have to get one. I just think they'll end up going big guy there. But look, time will tell.
There's more value to moving around Christian Kirk than there is Gabe Davis. Like, they can get more for Christian Kirk, I would think. Probably not a whole lot more, but
I would
more
agree, but he also
Christian Kirk
is more valuable to you on the roster to me than Gabe Davis would be, at least for this year.
Sure.
But there are other considerations, including what happens beyond 2025. 641-1010, John in Ponte Vedra wants to chime in on something Jaguar-related. Good morning, John.
Good morning.
What's up?
So, I've been listening all week talking about draft picks, the bust.
Yes.
And, when it comes to draft picks, I think it's not just how have they done, right? Hindsight's 20/20. I think when it comes down to, where were they predicted to go and where did they go, right? Were they supposed to be good or bad, and were they good or bad, right? I think that makes decides on whether the GM did a good job or not. Like, you guys were talking about 2018, right? Trayvon Bryan, right? Are you talking about Trayvon Bryan versus Lamar Jackson?
Taven Bryan,
what?
yes.
Yeah. And Lamar went 32nd, right? So everybody passed on him. And in 2017, what happened in 2017? Ultimately, Blake Bortles won the AFC Championship game, all intents and purposes, right? Because Jack wasn't down. So he was the number 10 quarterback in the league. We had a really good defense, and pieces we knew they were going to, start getting disassembled. So, that D end is probably what we need to go get. Or a defensive lineman, right? I mean, it's all like you guys talk about need. all the time.
Look, sure.
Need.
We talk about need a lot. And, John, appreciate the call and the point of view, and all that's fine. But to say, it's like by saying nobody rated this guy here, that it's like saying the GM should just abdicate his own decision-making to the group consensus. That's not what a GM's supposed to do. No. It's on that GM to figure out that everyone's wrong and that Lamar Jackson is worth a better pick, or that Taven Bryan is not the guy you think he's going to turn into. You don't get, in my opinion, credit because, well, other people would have taken Luke Jokel at 2, so you're justified in doing it. No. You know what you should have done? You should have taken Lane Johnson, who went 2 picks later and played the same position. Mm-hmm. That's what you should have done. That's up to I don't give the GM a pass. And because X amount of people passed on this guy, it's up to you to find them. Now, there are guys, look, it's not like Lamar Jackson was Brock Purdy here. Sure. And the 49ers threw the last pick of the draft and struck gold with Brock Purdy. Lamar Jackson was a Heisman winner. He dominated college football. And certainly the Ravens thought he was worthy of a first-round pick. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, look, to me, you've got that's when you're grading these selections, Tony, I'm not going to sit back there and say, well, we had this, we had that. It's not just – if you take Lamar Jackson out of the equation, Taven Bryan stunk. He was terrible. He was a terrible pick, terrible. So even if you put Lamar – we weren't going to take Lamar anyway because we had Blake, even though we were calling for it at the time.
Sure.
To at least roll it, especially that late in the first round. The upside was so tremendous. Okay, don't pick Lamar Jackson, but then pick a good player at that spot. So he's still a terrible pick. I don't care what the thought process was. We got to get a defensive lineman. Well, then get a good one.
Yeah. I think that kind of thing only comes into play when you're comparing these guys directly and how much the pick actually bugs you. Right? Like if you're looking at it from the perspective of what was the kind of feeling about the player from a league perspective, it seemed like as you were going through the process at the time, I think that being a factor in deciding how much the pick bothers you compared to the other guys we're comparing them directly to, I think that can be a factor, but it's why they're on the list. Right? Like, it doesn't remove them from the list that, yeah, everyone kind of felt that way, that Taven Bryan would be an okay player, and that was kind of a feeling around at that point in the draft. This is around where he's going to go. That was the conversation. There was a little bit of surprise that Atlanta didn't take him.
Yeah, and they took Calvin Ridley.
Right, because that was the conversation that was being had. So that being a factor in, differentiating between the guys on the poll today, I think is fair to some degree, but it's not anywhere close to a good enough argument to say they shouldn't even be on the poll. That would be dumb. There's a reason the guys that we have on the polls these last couple days have been on the polls, and it's because
they're the worst 10 first-rounders that they've
right. Picked. It just overall, they are that group. You want to figure out how to divide those things up, use whatever metric you want to do
I
that.
mean, if the Jags picked a good player in the round and then a Hall of Famer went 5 picks later, I'm not going to say that that's one of the worst picks if the player turned out to be good. Yeah, you could have had better. But, I mean, Matt Jones, you could have had Aaron Rodgers, right? You didn't know at the time. No. I mean, that's a little bit more palatable because Matt Jones stunk, right, to make that argument. Sure. Anyway, but, look, it's not everyone's going to agree in lockstep here. That's why we're running these polls, right? Vote for the guy you want to vote for. Today, C.J. Henderson, Taven Bryan, Kayvon Chason, your choices. And Henderson so far is the clear choice out there. But express your opinion at MD_1010XL on Twitter in that one-click poll today. We'll do the runoff tomorrow. Gus Logue going to join us to talk a little free agency and how the Jags might approach it. Coming up next, you're listening to Jaguars Today on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
Jaguars Today from the Renewal by Anderson Custom Windows and Doors Studios of 1010XL.
Okay, for this Cannons of Jacksonville commercial, we need an idea to really come out with a bang.
Like having a guy shot out of a cannon.
Nah, too messy. In fact, Cannons is known for all your towing needs.
So like my car won't start.
No. Towing products. Cannons does custom welding fabrication and installation of trailer hitches, goosenecks, tow bars, truck racks.
So you might say Cannons is my best shot at finding that inventory in stock?
Boom. You said it.
Visit cannonsofjacks.com.
Seminole Hard Rock Tampa is excited to bring you live craps, roulette, and sports betting. All under one roof, hotter than the Florida sun. Feel the luck of the dice. Watch the roulette wheel spin and scream for your touchdown as the big screen comes alive. Dine like a rock star. Sip cocktails that shimmer. Then dive into the heart of Las Vegas right here in Tampa Bay. Live craps, roulette, sports betting is here. Get in on the action now. Only at Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino Tampa. Located off of I-4 near I-75. Gambling problem? Call 1-888-10-MINUTE.
Jaguars Today, Thursday.
Brought to you by Cannons of Jacksonville.
This is Daytona, the awe-inspiring spectacle of Supercross, and the most challenging course to witness the air-catching, adrenaline-pumping, heart-pounding action unlike any other race in Florida. Daytona Supercross. The biggest names battle it out under the lights at the World Center of Racing. Don't miss it. The gate drops Saturday, March 1st. Secure your tickets and trackside access today at DaytonaInternationalSpeedway.com.
Staying Alive, one night of the Bee Gees, a tribute like you've never seen before. Experience the songs and sights of a full Bee Gees playlist performed live. March 6th at Jack Center for the Performing Arts. Tickets at fscjartistseries.org.
This month, 1010XL shines the spotlight on African Americans in our community who have made the First Coast a better place to live. I'm E.T. Listen for my stories during Black History Month on 1010XL. Brought to you by Instant Keys and McGowan Spinal Rehabilitation Center.
A customer with an older home and galvanized piping called saying they had poor water pressure. It smelled bad and was discolored. So we at Duck Rooter sent a highly skilled manager to discuss options. How repiping the water lines would solve the issues. The result? Clean flowing water. Call for your free estimate, 904-862-6769. Visit DuckDuckRooter.com. Proud partner of the Jacksonville Jags. Serving commercial and residential, fully insured and certified plumbing contractor.
Hey everybody, Mike Dempsey here. In the past 10 years, the weight loss industry has seen it all. New medications, fad diets, sculpting, and still, Awaken 180 continues to stand alone as the proven solution for weight loss online at awaken180weightloss.com.
Hey Jacksonville, Lauren here from Helmets and Heels. When it's time for new tires, look no further than Big Chief Tire. Their experts will help you quickly find the right fit, ensuring a safe and comfortable ride. With quality options, fair prices, and quick installation, you'll be back on the road in no time. Visit WeKeepJacksRollin.com or call 904-932-0950 to schedule your appointment and roll into 2025 with even greater confidence, guaranteed. Big Chief Tire keeps Jacks rolling.
Mark Watson here to tell you a little bit about HardballCreative.com. It's your online promo haven with thousands of ideas on how to promote your company. We're open 24/7, 365.
Hardball Creative. Hardball does it all.
With the sun setting earlier, Hidden Hills Golf Club has expanded their twilight specials so you can take advantage of our special afternoon rates and get your round in before dark. Book today at hiddenhillsgc.com and enjoy this beautiful fall weather.
This is Father Nicholas Lowe, and I want to talk to you about how God never fails us. In the Bible, Christ says this, I will in no way fail you or leave you without support. This is so important to remember because we can have the attitude, where is God when I need him? Why is this problem happening to me? No, just because your mind is saying one thing doesn't mean that God isn't going to do what he said. God has never failed us in the past. He's not about to start right now.
For more inspiration, log on to stjohnthedivine.com.
You'll always feel good when you send someone a Kuhn Flowers, floral, or plant arrangement. This is Max Fink with 1010XL, and no matter what the reason, Kuhn Flowers has always come through for me. Order online at kuhnflowers.com.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Now, more Jaguars Today on 1010XL.
All right, time to dive into a little free agency. Again, you can vote in our final pre-runoff poll today. The Jaguars Today question today presented by Chad and Sandy Real Estate. Which of these three options was the worst first-round draft pick of the Jags? Taven Bryan in 2018, C.J. Henderson, or Kayvon Chaisson in 2020. They double-dipped that year. For those who've replied with other names, you probably missed the earlier polls this week. Where at times people would reply with names like C.J. Henderson or Kayvon Chaisson. So tomorrow we'll take all the winners or losers, the leading vote getters in the polls, and we'll run them off to determine who you think is the worst first-round pick in Jags history. They've had plenty of free agent misses, Tony Smith, as well over the years. And here to guide us to, I don't know know, I guess didn't make the finalist cut for Jaguars GM interviews. Gus Logue here, not only of 1010XL, but a Big Cat Country as well. Gus, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing great, fellas. Appreciate you having me on. Yeah, I guess I didn't meet the age cutoff because it's pretty low.
Are you too
right?
old?
I'm too young.
Are you too young?
I mean, 29-year-old James Gladstone, right, from the Rams, but I still got a little bit ways to go to ride the ride, I guess.
I don't know how old you are, man. I don't get into people's business like that. I haven't. Trust me. Once you reach a certain point, you can't figure out anybody's age anymore.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, wait, is that person 24? No, she's 16.
They're all 14.
Yeah, they're all 4. Right? They all act 14.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. So, Gus, tell it for folks who don't know you. You do great podcasting stuff. You do a lot of work here. What would you say is your job description both here and at Big Cat Country?
Yeah, what I try to do is just be an analyst of the Jaguars. I would say analyst over reporter because partly I don't get into the nitty-gritty of press conferences, talking to players before and after games during the week, going to every single press conference. Part of that is because I do have responsibilities here behind the scenes at 1010XL, as well as at Big Cat Country, kind of managing that whole team of bloggers over there. But I also like to analyze football and to analyze the NFL and to kind of try to add context wherever I can to try to break down which players are good, which players are bad, where the team should look towards to fill their needs. And I feel like that's what we're going to discuss today.
That is.
As exciting as the draft is, I don't know. I'm personally a big NFL guy, and so this is like my Super Bowl because as important as the draft is, it's also important to kind of fill your needs, right? Before
right, and we really don't know, Tone, what the plan is going to be. You know, Shad Khan said last year we got to be more of a draft and develop team. We can't just keep buying players, but they bought a lot of players last year. You know, and you still have cap space to spend. I think the Jags will look to add at least one starter, maybe more in free agency. Everyone's got a little bit more cap space today than they anticipated yesterday. So, breaking it down, analyzing this roster, right? And not to say they don't have more than one need, but what is the most pressing need that you say this is the number one priority that they have to fill this offseason, whether it is in free agency or the draft?
Yeah, I think generally I would agree with common consensus that the Jaguars need to invest in the trenches on both sides of the line of scrimmage. Obviously, there's a little bit of recency bias. We saw how important that was in the Super Bowl between the Chiefs and the Eagles, but really all Super Bowl teams invest in their trenches. So offensive line and defensive line. And when you're looking at a potential starter spot, I think right guard is definitely the first one you got to look at. Brendan Sheriff, technically still under contract, but he's got a void year in 2025. So that basically means he's expected to walk into free agency unless the team restructures his deal and kind of extends his contract. So you're looking at a big starting hole on the offensive line at right guard. And so I think that's definitely the first spot that they need to look at. And then beyond that, I think that they do need to look at the defensive line, especially on the interior, since they've got the two great starters along the edge in Trayvon Walker and Josh Hines-Allen. But cornerback, really secondary in general, but especially a cornerback to line up outside opposite of Tyson Campbell every single snap from week one. I think right guard and then perimeter cornerback would probably be the top two needs that I'd be looking at for the Jaguars that they'd want to fill in free agency. Even if they're not getting Pro Bowl caliber guys, you want to be able to fill those spots with guys that could potentially start so that when you are in April looking at the 5th overall pick, you're not pigeonholing yourself into feeling like you have to take one position to fill a roster need.
How much does what is going to be available in the draft, like the depth of the class of these different positions, how much of an impact should that have on how teams, specifically the Jaguars, approach free agency, given however you feel about the depth of the different positions that we do feel like are needs for the football team? Like, how does the depth of the draft affect how aggressively you go after positions in free agency?
Yeah, I think that's huge. And even when you're on draft day, looking at who you're going to pick with the 5th overall selection, like where you end up going with that pick also depends on the depth of class at various positions, but it also matters in free agency. I think for the Jaguars, running back is a good example of that. Obviously, they've got two guys in Tank Bigsby and Travis Etienne who can definitely carry the load, and especially together as a two-back tandem. But you'd still probably want to add depth to that backfield, and I think that obviously Ashton Jeanty out of Boise State is a big name in the running back class for 2025. But beyond that, I think it's more of a deep class than it is really talented, especially at the top after Jeanty. And so I think that if the Jaguars were interested in acquiring another running back to potentially compete for the third back role with Dearness Johnson and then Keelan Robinson, their late draft pick last year, then they might want to think about kind of skipping the running back class in free agency and looking ahead to the draft, because I think there's going to be a lot of guys on day 3 that probably would have been available more so on day 2 in previous years.
Yeah, to me, running back is like a finishing piece. You look at the guys that signed last year with the big deals. Derrick Henry went to Baltimore, tried to put him over the top, right? Saquon went to Philadelphia, did put him over the top. Josh Jacobs went to Green Bay, went to a pre-existing good team and boosted the running game. There's another one somewhere in that kind of level. But you had a lot of guys.
Aaron Jones was pretty good.
Aaron Jones is good.
Yeah.
That was
Austin
another
Eckler
one.
was low-key pretty solid for the Commanders.
He was okay, right? He wasn't
Josh
the Eckler of
Jacobs
3 years
got
ago, but he
moved.
was solid, right?
Yep.
Jacobs I mentioned. But anyway, a lot of those guys went to teams that obviously generally a 4-win team's not looking to make a big splash at running back in free agency, and particularly in a deep draft year for that position. So let's talk about a couple specifics, okay? Cornerback you mentioned. Cornerback does seem to be deep in free agency. Like, you should be able to come out of this free agency period, whether it's Byron Murphy or Carlton Davis or DJ Reed or any number of guys. Do you have a favorite target among the cornerbacks for Jacksonville, or maybe 1 or 2 guys that you'd like to see him go after?
Yeah, for me, I think it starts with Carlton Davis and Jaden Reed. Or Reed is from the Jets.
DJ Reed.
DJ Reed,
Yeah.
right. DJ Reed from the Jets, free agent. Carlton Davis is from the Lions, but previously played for the Buccaneers. I think both guys are exactly what you want in terms of Anthony Campanile's defense and really what the entire team is looking for, which is aggressive and tough-minded guys. You can really see that on the field when you're watching film in terms of just who's finishing plays, but also obviously just who's playing with an aggressive tenacity. And I think those guys definitely fit the mold. They would both be great counterparts alongside Tyson Campbell, especially DJ Reed, I think, because sometimes you hear people talk about how you want to build a receiver room with different kind of body types, kind of like you're building a starting 5 in the NBA. And I think the same applies to the opposite side of the field with the cornerback position, where you want kind of different body types. And so say the Jaguars are facing the Philadelphia Eagles, I would feel about as good as I can feel about guarding A.J. Brown one-on-one with Tyson Campbell, because he's typically better at guarding those bigger physical guys. And so opposite him, I would prefer not necessarily a smaller player, but someone that can really match the speed of opposing players. And so if you're playing the Eagles and you're facing A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, I think just on that one-on-one comparison, it makes sense being able to have Tyson Campbell line up across A.J. Brown and then DJ Reed against Devontae Smith, again, going to those different body types. But Carlton Davis really stands out to me, especially because Jeremy Fowler from ESPN mentioned him in an article saying that would be a good team fit, seeing Carlton Davis land with the Jaguars here in Jacksonville. So I think that makes a lot of sense. A name that I think 2 Packers actually stand out to me as potential under-the-radar names. Jair Alexander certainly isn't an under-the-radar name, but I think that all signs are showing that he's going to be not with the Green Bay Packers in 2025. And he's one of those guys like Cooper Kupp and Deebo Samuel, those receivers that their contracts are so large, you don't necessarily want to give up assets to go get them in a trade. So if the Packers ended up releasing Jair Alexander, I think that the Jaguars should be interested, especially with the ties to former Packers defensive coordinator Anthony Campanile, but then also Eric Stokes, who I believe was in the same draft class as Tyson Campbell. Both of them did play at Georgia together. Eric Stokes is already a free agent. I think it's also unlikely that he'll be back in Green Bay. So those are 2 kind of under-the-radar names to maybe keep an eye on.
We did our top 5 a few weeks ago now on free agent targets for the Jags, and the guys that were most common at 1 and 2 on virtually everyone's list were T. Higgins and Trey Smith. And T. Higgins, more and more news makes it feel less and less likely that anyone's going to have a shot, right, at getting to T. Higgins, that it's going to wind up with him back in Cincinnati. But how hard do you think the Jaguars should push for Trey Smith? Should they be willing to reset the interior offensive line market, which is what it sounds like it's going to take to go get a guy like Trey Smith?
Yeah, personally, I don't think they should get after him. I think that they probably will be interested in his services because I suspect that they'll be aggressive in addressing both trenches, but especially the offensive line this offseason. But Trey Smith, to me, is a really good player, but not quite the caliber of player that should be resetting the market. There's been reports coming out that the Chiefs are probably going to let him walk and hit free agency, and typically that's a sign. Like NFL teams very rarely let good players hit free agency. And sometimes it does come down to money, and the Chiefs would rather invest resources in a few different players than putting a lot of resources, in this case, cap dollars, into just one right guard. But to me, Trey Smith, I don't think he's really on the same tier as the guys he's playing next to on the interior of Kansas City's offensive line between Joe Thuney, the left guard, and Creed Humphrey, the center. I think those guys are arguably the best players at their respective positions. Trey Smith, again, definitely a very good football player, but I would potentially be looking for a cheaper option there.
And look, the problem is, or one of the problems are the fact that you look at some of these lists, and Brendan Sheriff is listed as like the third best available guard. And we're like, oh, we got to upgrade off this guy. To whom, right? I mean, so it's not exactly a robust class. It looks like people
you may be able to get younger, but you're going to be guessing at whatever the ceiling's going to be.
Well, people are looking at Mekhi Becton, okay? Yeah. But is Mekhi Becton a mirage? Or 1 year, did all of a sudden the light turn on and will Philadelphia let him go? There are a lot of different things and this is a good class for interior offensive line. That's what every draft pundit will tell you. Particularly you start getting into the second round, you probably get a starter right there at 36, right? And so you got to kind of weigh that as well. Safety is a big need for this team, in my opinion. Javon Holland played in Miami. Anthony Campanile was there when he was there. So have some good intel on him. Word came out yesterday. The Dolphins are not going to franchise tag him. What is your interest level there?
Yeah, very high. I think he's pretty similar to Andre Sisco, honestly, where he entered his contract season showing a lot of flashes throughout his career that he was a great, rangy, free safety. And then during his contract year, he actually had a little bit of an underwhelming season, partly due to injuries. But I would honestly be interested in retaining Andre Sisco, but it just seems like that's not going to happen. So if Andre Sisco isn't the answer at free safety, I think Javon Holland definitely makes a lot of sense.
What's your pitch for Andre Sisco being back?
I pretty much like what I just said, where I think that a lot of the underwhelming aspects of his 2024 season had to do with some lingering injuries. I think also he clearly wasn't put in the best positions to succeed. I think you can say that for a lot of guys under Ryan Nielsen's staff last year. And so from what I've seen from 4 seasons from Andre Sisco in Jacksonville, and I guess I might have a little bit biased because I was a fan of him coming out of Syracuse too. But I just think he's got the tenacity that honestly the Jaguars are going to be looking for and the aggressiveness and tone-setting type of play. I think Andre Sisco has that and can be rangy and be your kind of center fielder. And so, I don't know. I guess the organization feels like it would be best to part ways.
We don't know, right? I mean, that's the thing. Like, if Ethan Wall's not the GM and there's no holdover mentality of we brought this guy in, right? It's a whole new coaching staff. Baselli's new in his role, front office, all that, and they decide that Andre Sisco is redeemable or worth investing in, then I'll be open to it. You know what I mean? Because I feel like people look at Walker Little got a contract, and that's Trent Baalke, again, securing his guys. I drafted this guy. He was worthy of a contract extension. How many guys got a second deal? And if Baalke were still in place and they bring back Sisco, I think a lot of people would look at it from that aspect. So if a fresh, complete set of eyes decides to go down that road, I guess we'll give it a shot.
We'll see. I definitely do want them to invest in safety, whether it's Andre Sisco, Javon Holland, Cameron Bynum from the Vikings. I think it makes a lot of sense because I think safety is almost similar to running backs, or kind of a devalued position. But now that we've seen the running game kind of come back in recent years, it's really important to get, I think, especially the nickel position is going to be really important in terms of kind of marrying the pass defense with the run defense. But then also just having playmakers over the middle of the field. That's something that Jacksonville has been lacking for a long time now, even with Foye Oluokun and Devin Lloyd, who I think are both objectively above average linebackers. Mm-hmm. Maybe part of it is the coaching that they've had and the players around them. But I do think that the Jaguars really need a true playmaker, and it won't cost them a fortune to go out and get one in free agency.
With everything we've discussed among the key needs that we see for the football team going into this offseason, what, in your opinion, does the team come away with in an ideal free agency period?
I would say a starter at right guard, a starter, or at least someone that you think could compete for a starting job at cornerback, another starter at free safety or just the safety position in general. So that's 3 potential starters, which is a good amount, especially for a team that even if they're picking 5th overall, I think everyone in the country can agree that there's more talent on this roster than that would suggest. So hopefully 3 starters there, but I think just generally adding depth to a different couple positions would be important, starting with backup quarterback, even if they have the face of the franchise, Trevor Lawrence, locked up long-term. Mac Jones and C.J. Beathard are both free agents. I think Kyle Trask makes a lot of sense to come over.
Johnny Wolford's here, baby. He's back.
That's true. I forgot about him. But Kyle Trask, since he has experience in the Liam Cohen system from last year with the Bucs, he makes sense to just bring over as not a true veteran because he hasn't truly been around the block as an NFL starter, but he has been in the league technically for 4 years now. Then receiver is another kind of depth position I'm looking at, especially with recent Christian Kirk rumors popping up. I would be surprised if he wasn't on the team next year, but I think even if they keep Christian Kirk and Evan Engram, and even with Gabe Davis's relatively big contract being on the books, I think they would still potentially be interested in adding a receiver. I think Jeremy Fowler, or might have been Dan Graziano, one of those ESPN senior writers.
You talking about Kirk?
No, I was just going to say one of them, it was actually Jeremy Fowler wrote for ESPN, expects Jacksonville to look for a speedy receiver this offseason. And so Darius Slayton, I think, fits that mold perfectly.
We were just talking about him, yeah.
Yeah, almost like a DJ Chark-esque player where he's best outside on the perimeter, can really take the top off of defenses. And we all talk so much about how much Brian Thomas does in terms of being able to attract attention from opposing defenses and open up space for other guys. But it would be nice to have someone with at least the vertical speed to be able to open up space for Brian Thomas as well.
I'm waiting for the tweet from somebody to say, hey, Jags or any other team are interested in kind of a slow-footed receiver to fill out the group. Like, yeah, we all want fast everywhere. Are you kidding me?
We need a big plotting guy.
Right? Just to balance things out a little bit. All right, you can find Gus. Check him out, by the way, with Duval Rundown, which is a great podcast here at 1010XL on your Jacksonville Jaguars. He had John Ledyard on last week. You can go check that out. It's all in Gus's timeline on the Twitter or X platform at Gus_Logue, Logue is where you'll find him there. We find him right across the hall from us every day. Gus, thanks for weighing in with a little kind of overview of what the Jags are facing with free agency now a little under a month away from getting going. Let's go spend Shad Khan's money.
Let's do it. My pleasure, boys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, buddy. Gus Logue here with us. We'll come back. Tony, some thoughts on what Gus had to say. Gene Fournette going to join us about 20 minutes from now from the Florida Times-Union to kind of give an overview of what the Jags have done to this point this offseason and see if he's got a favorite among the 5 GM finalists for the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is Jaguars Today on 1010XL and 92.5 FM.
Jaguars Today for the Renewal by Andersen Custom Windows and Doors Studios. Follow the JU Dolphins on 1010XL.
It's Fins Up and Swoop. River City Rumble Part 2. JUUNF. Tonight at 8 on 1010 AM.
Don't miss the Players' Championship, March 11th through 16th at TPC Sawgrass. This can't-miss event features a variety of activities for every fan to enjoy, from delicious bites to the Sawgrass Splash. There are endless fan enhancements that will make for a memorable experience. Plus, watch the top PGA Tour players, including back-to-back champion Scottie Scheffler, take on the iconic stadium course featuring the famous Island Green. Tickets available at theplayers.com.
This is the sound of real people across Florida betting on sports. It's the sound of winning your bet, only on Hard Rock Bet. And if your first bet doesn't win, you get up to $100 back to try again. Hard Rock Bet is Florida's only legal sports book. Your home for betting hoops for any sport you choose. Download Hard Rock Bet now and get 2 shots at your first bet. Win, or you'll get up to $100 back as a bonus bet. Offered by the Seminole Tribe of Florida. Must be 21 plus and physically present in Florida to play. Terms and conditions apply. Concerned about gambling? Please call 1-888-ADMIT-IT.
You're locked in to Jaguars Today Thursday with
Cannons of Jacksonville.
Upgrade your home with the winning combination of style and performance from Renewal by Andersen. Energy efficient, custom-built replacement windows and doors. For a limited time, buy 4 windows or patio doors and get the 5th free. Plus, 0 down, no payments, and no interest for 18 months. This offer expires February 28th. Renewal by Andersen, proud partner of the Florida Gators. Visit bestwindowsflorida.com to schedule your free consultation.
License number CGC 1527613. Discover the difference that local expertise makes at First Coast Lighting and Fans. Visit their showroom at the Avenues and browse high-quality products to match your desire for elegance, quality, and uniqueness at First Coast Lighting and Fans.
We don't have too many cold nights on the First Coast, but when the temperature drops, you want to hit the heat button and warm up. That's where Florida Home comes in. They're the AC experts in Jacksonville, and the importance of keeping your heating system in good working order is really important. If it stops working when it gets cooler, Florida Home will leap in pump repair, system installation. They do it all. Just call Florida Home AC at 777-4300, the official heating and AC partner of the Jaguars.
It's kind of like his own private locker, and you're his guest.
Every time we talk, I'm reinvigorated by my love of the game.
Hayes Carline here. Find my blog at 1010xl.com.
Hayes Blog is brought to you by Roland Reach Plumbing, where quality and experience count.
If you're listening to 1010 and you're a parent, chances are your kids are playing sports. Well, check out i9sports.com with spring and summer registration open right now, including all new girls volleyball at Duval Charter Bay Meadows. i9sports.com, enter 1010 for a discount.
WJXL AM Jacksonville Beach, WJXL FM Jacksonville Beach.
If you are an experienced electrician looking for your next big opportunity, look no further than the Miller Electric Company, a trusted name in the industry for over 96 years. At Miller Electric, we tackle the biggest projects in the city, offering you the chance to showcase your skills on a grand scale. We believe in rewarding hard work with the best pay, top-notch benefits, and an unbeatable culture where people actually care about each other. Take your career to new heights with Miller Electric Company. Apply today at millercareers.com. Miller Electric, an equal opportunity employer.
Hi, I'm Malcolm Anthony. Have you been charged with a crime? You don't have to face it alone. I'm here for you. Stay out of trouble, but if you don't, call me. 285-4LAW. That's 285-4LAW in the 904.
New and pre-owned firearms are in stock at Beach's Jewelry and Pawn in Jacksonville Beach. Want a new sidearm or rifle? Brands like Kimber, Smith & Wesson, 6 Hour, Beretta. No lines, no hassle. Only at Beach's Jewelry and Pawn in Jacksonville Beach.
Looking for a great place to enjoy some craft creations and soak up some scenery? Fernandina's Mocama Beer Company is a must-see and must-try. Nassau County knows it. Visitors need to find out about it. Mocama means near the big water where the sun is born. And if you visit their tap room in Fernandina Beach, you'll see how they've mastered equal parts precision and art in creating great flavors from IPAs to Pilsners, lagers, and sours, plus plenty more. Mocama.com, Mocama Beer Company. Start an adventure and find them in Fernandina.
Ackerman Urology is now servicing the World Golf Village area. If you have elevated PSA, prostate, bladder, or kidney issues, plan to see the experts at Ackerman Urology right away. Their new location off I-95 at International Golf Parkway.
This is Molly McDonald with your 1010XL Southeast Orthopedic Specialist local sports update. The Florida Gators men's basketball team are having one of their best seasons in school history, currently sitting at number 2 ranked team in the country with only 5 games to play. They're riding with all the momentum as March Madness is right around the corner. Head coach Todd Golden believes his team just moves as one, and the team chemistry is what has led them to this monumental season.
The consistency in the way in which we compete and the freedom in which we play on offense, I think we try not to call too many things, in terms of like setting up actions and run them. We play out of what we call our early games, basically continuous ball screen motion, because we feel like we have guys that can make plays out of ball screens and make the right reads. I also think our guys have a lot of fun out there. When certain guys make plays, how excited our bench gets. Like, we have a very connected team. We have a lot of guys that care about each other and that pull for each other.
It's 51 degrees at 11:01. Time in temp brought to you by Bueller Air and Plumbing. Stay cooler with Bueller.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Everything you need to know about the Jags. Jaguars Today on 1010XL.
Ball start, Denmark, 10-yard penalty right there. Backing us up right like that. All right, welcome into hour 2 of Jaguars Today. Gene Fournette from the Florida Times-Union on the way. Poll question today is our final one before the runoff tomorrow, trying to determine the candidates for the worst first-round pick in Jaguars history are winners or losers, however you want to look at it. The polls so far, R.J. Soward among all the first-round wide receiver busts on Monday. Yesterday, Blaine Gabbert topped Derek Harvey and Luke Jokel in the poll. Today, we've got Taven Bryan, C.J. Henderson, Kayvon Chase on.
Let's go, C.J.
All drafted within a little 3-year period right there, 18, 19, I guess 2-year period, really. But it's funny, though. Everyone's got their opinion. That's what makes the world go round, right? We all have our strong opinions about things, but this happens every time we do a poll like this, and it's fine. It's just that if people don't say it's this guy, they're crazy, and here's why. Well, they're all really bad. As somebody said, just replied, they're all terrible, weren't they? Yes, correct. That is exactly right.
That's why they're in the poll.
That's why they're in the poll, and there's no wrong answer here. It's your opinion on who is the worst of the worst. Doom, I think, wants my hat. He's a bit of a hat hound.
He is.
Right? Doom loves him a good Jaguar hat out there, and I'm rocking today the Tom Coughlin Pride of the Jaguars hat that I don't even know. We acquired several for the staff around the time that Tom went into the Pride last year, and I have offered it up to Doom if he wants it. This is the only time I've worn it, so give it a quick washing if you want to, Doom. But I don't have any thing communicable that I'm aware of, so you can have the hat if you want it, because I'm that kind of guy. He said no, it's really cool though. All right, so question answered. All right, couple on the text line, Tony. This is Marcus Matrix, and I've got a quick question. Hello, Marcus.
Hello, Eminem.
Hypothetically, let's say the Jags take Mason Graham with the number 5 pick.
Okay.
All right, that seems plausible. We get to the second round, and Walter Nolan still happens to be on the board and is the best available player at pick 36. Would it be a dumb decision to double dip and take him just like the Jags did with Stroud and Henderson? Of course, that was back-to-back years, but regardless, right? Or should we draft a different position that's not quite the best available player, but a position of need? I think it's a very good question, and it's one I struggle with, Tony, more so when I do these mock drafts on whether I should take Mason Graham, because it feels like there's going to be a pretty good defensive tackle sitting there for the Jags at 36. And even if you miss out on like Walter Nolan and Kenneth Grant, you get deeper into the third round. There's some intriguing defensive tackle options out there for the Jags. Look, I'm not going to say it would be dumb to do it, because if they both turn out to be great players, so be it, right? But Armstead's coming back, and I shouldn't even mention him first. It's more Mason Smith. What does this coaching staff see on film? He had some productivity down the stretch. I'm actually intrigued to see what he can turn into, Tone. And are you basically, in that scenario, I feel like you're writing off Mason Smith as being a significant impact player. Because if a new regime comes in, new front office, new coaching staff, and takes two guys basically at the same position that Mason Smith plays, and I understand there are different roles among defensive tackles, but I feel like both of those guys are more the penetrating kind of defensive tackle, which I think Mason Smith can be for this team. I think this team needs a big, fat, ugly, honking nose tackle is what I think. But so I don't – first of all, you look at a lot of these mock drafts, no one's gone in the first round in a lot of them. But in this hypothetical, what would you feel if he was the highest graded player on the Jags board and they had already addressed the position?
I would feel I wouldn't want to take another player with the same kind of profile, right, with what you wanted to do with them. I think it would be different if you felt like it was a defensive tackle that was more like a nose.
Like if it was Kenneth Grant.
Right.
Who played with Mason Smith.
Right, like that would be a bit of a different situation, and I wouldn't look at that as them taking 2-3 techniques, that kind of thing.
Right.
I don't mind it being 2 defensive tackles in this draft, but they have to be different kinds of players. I don't see Mason Graham as a nose. I don't see Mason Smith as a nose.
Neither do I.
Right? Like, so
I could be wrong.
If they took Mason and it came back around and Nolan was the best player available at that point, then I would hope you'd be able to find somebody that's interested in a 3 technique that would be willing to come up and make that kind of move. Or you might not take the player that was the highest graded on your board, but the next guy, odds are, is at a position where you have much more open competition for what the role would be. It's, you compare it to the Henderson Stroud thing. Both those guys could play nose 3, whatever the heck you wanted them to be. Correct. At any given time. They were so flexible and they were monsters. Whatever you asked them to do, what Henderson would do to guys on the field was criminal, right? To offensive linemen. He was a big bully every time he was on the field. I don't get that kind of picture from either of that type of guy. They're more that penetrating 3 technique type. If you're willing to invest it in Graham at the top, I get it. I'm in favor of it. I don't think I would do it twice in the first 2 rounds.
I wouldn't either, right? But not in the first 2 rounds. But like you said, many of these mocks, I've taken 2 defensive tackles. Sure. And sometimes starting with the 36th pick, sometimes starting with Mason Graham at 5 or after a small trade down. It's a good question, Marcus. Appreciate you checking in with us. Let's go around the rest of the NFL.
Now, gems around the NFL. Brought to you by Beach's Jewelry and Pawn in Jax Beach.
The NFL has not announced an official number yet, but it has informed teams that the projected salary cap this year is going to be between $277.5 and $281.5 million. The salary cap in 2024 was $255.4 million, so at a minimum, the cap will be going up by $22.1 million this year if it lands on the lowest end of that estimate. But again, teams have already been playing kind of off that number for the last...
At least about 270.
Yeah, somewhere in there. So it'll be a little bit higher than they expected, but not a whole lot higher necessarily. Tampa Bay wide receiver and Chris Godwin have agreed to a change in his current contract, which will push back the date his contract voids from February 17th to March 12th, which is the day the free agency opened. It extends the window for those two to figure out a long-term deal, whatever they want to do this season. Detroit wide receiver Jameson Williams will not be facing any discipline from the NFL for an incident in October, wherein Williams was found with a gun that he had registered but did not have a concealed pistol license to carry the gun at the time. He has since obtained that license, and the county prosecutors declined to charge him. Now, essentially, so is the NFL.
All right. Thank you, Tone. Let's just one quickly on the text line. Let's see here. This is how we outthink ourselves. Mason Graham is worth the fifth pick because he's the best player. Maybe.
I tend to agree with that,
okay,
which is why I have him up there. Yeah.
The other guys are fine. Yes, we need superior players if that's what they indeed are. Okay, but what if you feel like that taking the wide receiver there at 5 because he's a superior player and the fall off at that position is much greater than it is at defensive tackle, right? Yeah. So that's the thing. You can only have one with that spot, and you get there, and if there's going to be all this value in rounds 2 and 3 at that defensive tackle spot, is that the best use of the fifth pick? I think it's a fair question, a fair argument.
It's the discussions we have every year.
And maybe they determine that Mason Graham is simply the best player that could possibly be available to them, and they jump all over at 5. Maybe he's gone before 5. Starting to see that become more popular in the mocks. Anyway, we got to take a break. We'll come back. Gene Fournette from the Florida Times-Union on the other side, talking all things Jags on 1010XL and 92.5 FM.
Jaguars Today.
For the Renewal by Anderson Custom Windows and Doors Studios at 1010XL. Wonder what Rick Ballou would be doing if he wasn't on 1010XL?
So you had a fight with a game show host on national TV. I don't consider that entertainment.
Rick Ballou.
This is not hockey.
Weeknights on 1010XL.
Did you know your pup could take 30,000 to 60,000 steps a day at Dogtopia of Jacksonville Beach Boulevard? That's a whole lot of tail wagging fun with their best furry friends. At Dogtopia, they turn playtime into exercise, learning, and socialization in their off-leash, open play environment. Dogs build confidence, reduce anxiety, and stay happy and healthy, all while having the time of their lives. Visit Dogtopia of Jacksonville Beach Boulevard today.
Hi, I'm Kayla, a proud parent of my daughter Skylar, who's a part of Best Buddies. The Players is proud to partner with Best Buddies to promote inclusive living and friendship here in Northeast Florida. 19 days until the Players Championship.
Hi, I'm Janice. I'm a coach at Awaken 180 Weight Loss. When a client reaches the goal that they've set, they are so proud of themselves. They are so thrilled with how they look and how they feel. They are ready to take on the next thing. And that's one thing about weight loss. It's so much more than a number on a scale. It's about self-respect. It's a momentum thing. Now that I've lost 50 pounds, wow, there's no reason why I can't do this next thing that initially seemed so daunting, but now I know I can do it. The celebration is not just how much better you look and feel, but how much more self-respect you have. We get on a track of success at Awaken 180 Weight Loss.
Losing weight with Awaken 180 isn't about the number on the scale. It's about how that number spearheads endless success. Bring your goals to Awaken 180, then celebrate when you check off each and every one of them. Call 844-346-1800 or online at awaken180weightloss.com.
Jaguars Today Thursday, brought to you by Cannons of Jacksonville. Plummet
plumbing problem, septic emergency, HVAC system not doing its job? Don't panic. Call the pros at Duck Rooter Plumbing, Septic and Air Conditioning. From leaks, clogged drains to septic installations and air conditioning repairs, we've got the tools and expertise to get it done right. Dial 904-862-6769 now and let our friendly team handle the dirty work so you don't have to. Remember, when you're stuck, call the Duck.
Craft beers, food trucks, live music, and more beer at the Riverside Craft Beer Festival this Sunday afternoon at Riverside Arts Market. Get your tickets at riversidecraftbeerfestival.com. Proceeds benefit Community Peace Care and the Rotary Foundation.
Mia O'Brien.
Don't I know you from somewhere?
On Helmets and Heels, noon to 2.
I swear to you, I know her.
Then there's the 1010XL video and social media channels.
I would know her voice anywhere.
All Things Mia is driven by Arlington Toyota.
On 1010XL.
The restaurant of the day is the Great Greek Mediterranean Grill. Get free hummus with purchase of 2 entrees all Thursday long, off 210 and St. John's Parkway. Order online at thegreatgreekgrill.com/St. John's. thegreatgreekgrill.com/St. John's.
Don't miss the Players Championship, March 11th through 16th at TPC Sawgrass. This can't-miss event features a variety of activities for every fan to enjoy, from delicious bites to the Sawgrass Splash. There are endless fan enhancements that will make for a memorable experience. Plus, watch the top PGA Tour players, including back-to-back champion Scotty Scheffler, take on the iconic stadium course featuring the famous Island Green. Tickets available at theplayers.com.
You survived the cold, and it's time to heat up your spring with a cigar tasting of Perdomo cigars. Join Tobacco Cove Saturday, February 22nd from 1 to 4 p.m. for a tasting extravaganza featuring Perdomo cigars rolled in Nicaragua. Food, drinks, and specials on cigars. This is your chance to experience the quality and value Perdomo offers. Tobacco Cove on Bay Meadows Road. More than a cigar store, it's an experience.
When you're experiencing sudden, unexpected dental pain, the last thing you want to hear is that your dentist can't see you until next week. That's why I'm so glad I found Harbor Dental Care. Whenever I call, they always find a way to see me within 24 hours, and they can usually fix whatever's wrong the same day. Plus, they have locations throughout Jacksonville, so no matter what side of town I'm on, I can always count on the same great care. If you want to find a dentist who believes in treating people right, learn more at harbordental.care. That's HARBOUR dental.care.
ET here, and if you've ever been injured in an accident, visit my buddy Dr. McGowan at McGowan Spinal Rehabilitation Center. You have 14 days to see a doctor and protect your insurance benefits, even if you're at fault. And no matter what you hear, you have the right to choose your own doctor. So I recommend McGowan Spinal Rehabilitation. Their auto experts will guide you in every step of the way to ensure the care that you need. Your recovery starts with McGowan Spinal Rehabilitation.
Is your office productivity running at full speed? Advanced Business Solutions has the solution with Xerox copiers. Whether you need high volume printing, scanning, or secure document management, Xerox copiers deliver efficiency, quality, and innovation. With features like cloud integration and mobile printing, Xerox is perfect for any modern office. Let ABS help you streamline your workflow. Better known, Advanced Business Solutions.
Advanced Business Solutions. 1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Jaguars Today on 1010XL.
All right, continuing the conversation this morning, time to welcome in our man Gino the Bambino. Gene Fournette, Florida Times-Union, joining us here on Jaguars Today. Good morning, Gene. How are you?
I'm doing well, Mike. How about yourself?
We're excellent. I did not realize, double dipping on Fournette this week. I didn't realize you were going on with the Hacker After Dark as well, but we appreciate you coming on with us this morning to talk about the latest developments in Jaguar land. Gene, when we went back, last time we had you on, still weren't sure where the head coaching search would land, but we've moved past that now. So let me ask you about the decision from the Jags to make Tony Boselli executive vice president. Overdue, wait and see. What's your reaction to this decision?
Well, I since I endorsed it a month before it happened in print, I'm highly in favor of it. I just think that because of Tony's pedigree somebody who is emotionally invested. I don't know of anybody else who is probably more emotionally invested in the franchise outside of the actual coaches and players themselves and front office people than Tony. And I think when you have somebody who is emotionally invested, it doesn't really matter what it is. You could be talking about a general manager. You could be talking about a college president. You could be talking about a lot of different leadership positions. But when you have somebody who's emotionally invested in that organization or in that company, I think it increases your chances of having things buttoned up. And this organization, Jaguars, have not been a buttoned-up organization, quite frankly, in a long time. And I think Tony Boselli is somebody who probably can make that happen as well as anybody, because he's going to care more about succeeding than just about anybody because of his emotional investment in the franchise. And I just think this is a perfect time for him to do it, perfect time for the Jaguars to do it. Obviously, this wouldn't have happened. If Trent Baalke was still there, Tony Boselli would not be in the position he's in. But once Shad Khan pivoted and decided to move in a different direction and take Baalke out of the equation, pivot toward Liam Cohen, I just think it's a perfect time for Tony to be coming in, because this is a perfect time for an organizational reset. And I think that's exactly what Shad Khan is doing.
What is your overall feeling about how the GM process has gone so far this year compared to the other processes like this you've seen the team go through?
Well, I will say this. They're turning over a lot of rocks, right? I mean, which is, I think, is something that they need to do. Because when you turn over a lot of rocks, what happens? You're listening to a lot of different people. You're listening to a lot of different viewpoints, a lot of different philosophies. And I think this is something good for Shad Khan. Because quite frankly, Shad Khan's an incredibly successful businessman, but he hasn't quite frankly, other than the fact that he's willing to spend money and lets his coaches do the job, I just think he needs to be an NFL owner that pays attention more. And I think that when you're sitting in on more interviews with more people like they are, and a lot of these people, whether coaches or GM candidates, are young people that bring in new ideas into the league, and I think it's good that he's doing that, and I think it just increases your chances of getting a quality candidate. And I was just looking yesterday. The Athletic had their top 50 under 40 list, which is something that I think they did it 2 or 3 years ago.
Right.
Top 50 executives, coaches, personalities under the age of 40, and Liam Cohen was on there. Greg Udinski, the offensive coordinator, was on there. Aubrey Pleasant, one of the defensive coordinators they interviewed for the job, was on there. And 3 of their 5 GM finalists are on there. So what that tells me is, the Jaguars they're looking in the right places. And now it's just a question of coming up with the right candidate that they feel will be able to move this organization forward.
Yeah, Nate Scheelhaus on that list too, Gene, who was under consideration for the offensive coordinator job. So you're right; they're turning over a lot of those young rocks right now. So we know who the 5 finalists are for GM, and they're in the process now of completing their in-person interviews. Do you, Gene Fournette, Florida Times-Union, longtime Jaguar observer, have a favorite that, from a Jags perspective, that you would like to see this guy become the next GM?
I wouldn't say I have a slam dunk guy that say I look at, I'm much more sold on who I would take with the number 5 draft pick than I am who I'd take with the GM. I would be okay with Ian Cunningham. I know his name gets mentioned a lot. I'd be okay with James Gladstone. I've heard a lot of good things about him, the LA Rams guy. And for whatever reason, I know a lot of Jags fans will probably, hold their nose if Ethan Waugh ends up being the GM because of his connection with Trent Baalke. And to be honest with you, I wonder about this, and it'd be a hard thing to look up. I wonder if the Jaguars would make NFL history if they actually named Ethan Waugh the GM, because that would be 2 GMs in a row in which they picked an interim guy that was hired by the previous GM that was fired?
That's a good question. I can't imagine that's happened twice.
Yeah, I asked a long time. I asked John McClain about that yesterday when I was talking with him about the Hall of Fame situation, and he said, boy, that's a good question. I can't think of one.
Yeah, and he might know, right? I mean, that guy's been around doing it for a long, long time, even longer than us, Gene. But by the way, you can't just drop that little stink bomb in here about I know who I want with the 5th pick in the draft. Who do you want with the 5th pick in the draft?
I don't think we should. I don't think the Jaguars should overthink it. You take Mason Graham.
Okay.
That to me, it goes beyond the need for interior pass rush. It's the fact that the Jaguars on both sides of the ball in the trenches just need to get tougher. They need to get more physical, and it's been a problem for them for a while now. And I just think that having a Mason Graham, although he's probably a 3 technique guy, but I mean, I just think that that's the route that you go, because I think the gap between Mason Graham and some of the other, even though there seems to be a pretty decent crop of defensive tackles in the draft, that's the guy. That's the guy that I would go with first and foremost. I just feel pretty strongly about that. And that's not to say that the Jaguars couldn't take somebody else and that guy could be productive. I know there's a lot of people that like McMillan because he's such a exciting looking receiver and what have you. But listen, everybody talks about, it's all about Trevor Lawrence, and he's got, and Liam Cohen is going to be able to elevate him because of what he did with Baker Mayfield. And there's a lot of truth to that. And there's a good reason for optimism. But let's not forget the fact that this was the worst defense in the league last year. They were 32nd in the league. They were 31st in pass defense. They were, I think, almost dead last in takeaways. They were as bad a defense as you could get on multiple levels. And I think they need to probably do a little bit more addressing of that in the offseason.
Yeah, my ears perked up when he talked about Hall of Fame process with John McClain, too. So what were you hoping to learn in having that discussion with him, and what did you learn about the Hall of Fame process in that discussion?
Well, I mean, I talked with about six or seven different voters, and the sentiment is pretty much the same. They're not happy with what just happened in the Hall of Fame class. They're not happy, particularly that the board of directors changed the voting bylaws and made it harder to get a maximum number of modern era candidates in. They got only 3 this year. And out of the 3 senior players, 1 coach nominee and 1 contributor, they got only 1 person. So essentially, with a maximum class of 8, they had only 4. And the problem is that they changed how they were going to select them. Instead of just letting them get down to the 5 finalists, and everybody votes yay or nay on those finalists, and they always usually vote yay because they feel like anybody who can make it from 15 to 5 should not be suddenly blocked at the very end from getting into the Hall of Fame. But now they're asking the voters, instead of just yay or nay on the final 5, they're asking them to vote for 5 finalists. 5 finalists out of 7. So what that does is it further splits up the vote, because now you're voting for specific guys as opposed to yes or no on a guy, right? So that splits up the vote, and it increases the likelihood that the ones that are, 3rd, 4th, 5th, or 6th or whatever won't get the 80% threshold that's required. And so that's going to reduce the size of the classes, and it makes it a lot harder for a guy like Fred Taylor. He's probably going to have to wait a lot longer now. I mean, that's just the simple math just tells you that. And the same holds true for Tom Coughlin, whose criteria is much different than it would be for a modern era player. He's got to be the coach nominee to be out of, let's say, 9 or 10 candidates that they choose from each year. And it's a bad sign that because of this, the way they've designed this voting, Mike Holmgren did not get in this year. That's right. A bad sign for Tom, because that means Mike goes back into the pool next year, and then you've got Bill Belichick coming in next year as well.
Right.
I have a very uneasy feeling that Fred and Tom are going to have to wait a lot longer than they would have if they had stuck to the same voting protocol.
By the way, if you haven't read Gene's thoughts on this in their entirety, he posted these yesterday. You can go to Jacksonville.com and read the story on why these Jaguar greats may have a harder road to get to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. All right, Gene, you know the assignment we asked you to fulfill this morning. Give us a top free agent target that you would like to see the Jaguars go after when free agency opens up in the middle of March, and make your case for that guy.
Okay. So I first of all, I have to ask you one very important question.
Okay.
I got a list of about 6 or 7 guys. Does price factor into it? Are you just talking about, hey, let's just go after this guy regardless of what his price is? Or does price factor into it?
That's up to you. You know what they've got. They're probably going to have in the high 30s in terms of cap space right now with the cap rising a little bit. So it's up to you. Whatever you think is the best use of the resources. You want to, break the offensive guard market with Trey Smith, go, and that's fine. Whatever you think is the best appropriate use of resources, how would you approach it?
Well, Trey Smith is certainly a guy that I had on my list, but I also am mindful of the fact that if you go get Trey Smith, how who's going to be the most expensive guard out there in all likelihood, what does that mean for the other positions on the defense where there might be just as greater need there?
Sure.
If I'm going to make a case for just one guy, I could make it for Trey Smith, but it could be at the expense of fortifying a defense that needs a lot of fortifying, right? So I'm going to have to lean toward Javon Holland, safety for the Dolphins. I like the fact that he's 25 years old. I like the fact that he's made 57 starts, and has been relatively healthy. Some of these other free agents that I like have had some injury issues along the way. Another guard that I kind of like. I like Tevin Jenkins, the guy from the Bears. But he's had little nicks and bruises here and there. So there's so many things to weigh. But I would make the case for Javon Holland simply because I think the Jaguars need an upgrade. And this is all done with upgrading in mind. That's why you go get people in free agency, because you need an upgrade there. And I think Javon Holland is a guy that I think would fit pretty well with the Jaguars. And I just think that they need a lot of help in the secondary because they're going to need a cornerback as well, right?
Absolutely.
That's another position. And then, of course, you've got if you don't go get Mason Smith, and I don't know that there's that many options for the defensive tackle position in free agency. I would rather have a younger guy there. And another reason why I like Mason Graham so much is Armstead's not going to be around here much more for another year or two.
Sure.
I don't know what I like the potential that Mason Smith brings, but when you look at the really good teams, you can never have enough good defensive line people. I mean, those are the positions that get rotated all the time, and you need people. And if you're going to be a winning organization, if you're going to have designs on getting to a Super Bowl, you can't have a big enough wave of defensive linemen that can really get after it, win in the trenches. And the Jaguars just haven't had that in so long. And I think if you're gonna win in the NFL, you got to do it in the trenches. And quite frankly, Jaguars have not been very good there.
Hey, Gene, do you have a nephew named John that lives in town?
I do not.
Okay, there you go. Well, somebody texted in and said that you were his uncle and say hi to you. So I'll say what's up. From
wait a minute.
no.
Wait a minute. Yes.
Oh, no.
See, I was thinking of my last name. I thought you meant somebody with my last name.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
You do.
Yes.
All right.
In fact,
he's well remembered.
He's one of Rick Ballou's primary sponsors.
All right.
And he is also my godson.
All right. Well, he's only your godson. Okay. All right. Well, he gives you a shout out. He just wanted me to pass that along to you. So.
Okay. I was thinking somebody with my same last name.
All right. Cover your butt time for Gene Fournette right now. All right. Gene, we appreciate you stopping by, bro. And folks can check out your great work over at jacksonville.com/sports, covering the Jags and all things sports over there. and on the X platform at Gene Fournette. You know how to spell it if you've been around these parts for any length of time. Appreciate your insight, man. We'll check back with you around free agency. We'll keep an eye on Javon Holland together.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Gene. All right, Gene Fournette of the Florida Times-Union. That was fantastic.
Classic.
I love it. Gene's a good dude, man. He really is. First guy, when I had my first afternoon show in Jacksonville, was the first guest that ever came on. Gene probably wishes to forget that. It was an ignominious start for me. Not because of Gene, just, takes a while to find your groove. All right, let's come back and look at today's question of the day, weighing in on the latest group of Jaguar draft disappointments. And some final thoughts as we wrap this one up. Thanks again to Gene Fournette of the Florida Times-Union. You're listening to Jaguars Today on 1010XL and 92.5 FM.
Follow the JU Dolphins on 1010XL.
It's Fins Up and Swoop. River City Rumble Part 2. JUUNF. Tonight at 8 on 1010 AM.
Jaguars
Today.
From the Renewal by Anderson Custom Windows and Doors Studios of 1010XL.
Don't miss the Players' Championship, March 11th through 16th at TPC Sawgrass. This can't-miss event features a variety of activities for every fan to enjoy, from delicious bites to the Sawgrass Splash. There are endless fan enhancements that will make for a memorable experience. Plus, watch the top PGA Tour players, including back-to-back champion Scottie Scheffler, take on the iconic stadium course featuring the famous Island Green. Tickets available at theplayers.com.
Are you embarrassed by your ugly, cracked concrete driveway? Stop by Stone Core on Phillips Highway for all your outdoor living needs. Let them show you how a durable paver driveway can enhance your home. Visit stonecore.co. We do outdoors better.
Hey folks, Nick here for Zero Res, and if you still have a little bit of time for the hottest price of the year on carpet cleaning, maybe you had people over for the game or you're doing early spring cleaning, but in February, only $147 for 3 rooms, plus the 4th room is free. That's right, schedule now and you'll get 3 rooms for $147, and the 4th room is free. Yeah, the 4th room is on me. Hottest price of the year. Zero Res. Spell it forward, spell it backwards. Zero Res. It's the right way to clean.
CEROREC. Zero Res.
Jaguars Today Thursday is towed by Cannons of Jacksonville for all your towing needs.
Hi, Flying Jacko here, and when you're inside the Kuhn Flowers showroom, you'll find a wide array of gift ideas that'll take care of any gift-giving situation. Spend a few minutes there and you'll see for yourself. Kuhn Flowers on Beach Boulevard.
Experience the high-flying action truly unlike anything on the Supercross circuit at Daytona Supercross. Saturday, March 1st. Side-by-side intensity of Monster Energy AMA Supercross on the most demanding track of the circuit. Get close to the action as riders get pushed to the limits on the Ricky Carmichael designed track. For a chance to win tickets to Daytona Supercross, answer this. Who won the 450 final Supercross at Daytona in 2024? Text the winner's last name to 641-1010 now.
Guts and grit meet hustle and muscle.
Like you said, it's all hard.
Hodges Mazda presents the Frangie Show at the Combine. Opened by Window World of Northeast Florida. Roll through the off-season with AA Automotive on Richard Street and 1010XL.
Hello, sports fans. Hicken here. Let's talk skin. Iron Beach's Dermatology are reminding you to wear your sunscreen. If you're an active parent hanging at the fields, in your boat to fish, or like to chill at the sandbar, wear sunscreen. But if you're the one that decided for years it's not cool, guess what? Cancer isn't cool either. So when grabbing the clubs for your tea time, gassing up the boat, or grabbing the chairs for your kids' games, make sure you bring the screen. Any concerns now? Give Beaches Dermatology a call online at beachesdermatology.com.
Hi, I'm Mac with Baker Glass. If you've got fogged up windows, let me help. We'll replace them with clear, insulated units that brighten up your home. People say we're fast, friendly, and reliable. Just check out our Google reviews. Call me today. Baker Glass. No one treats you better.
Ackerman Urology offers the most advanced options for improving men's health and vitality. Their board-certified urologists treat all prostate disease and sexual health issues. Call their new location at World Golf Village or visit AckermanUrology.com.
Instant Keys. You don't have to go to the dealer. Instant Keys comes to you. For lost or broken keys or nearly any make and model of vehicle, call 722-1111 for Instant Keys locksmith service.
Tired of seeing the signs of aging in the mirror? Fine lines, sun damage, redness? They don't have to be part of your future. I'm Dr. Mark Capel, a board-certified dermatologist, and I can help you look and feel your best without invasive surgery or painful treatments. Imagine rejuvenating your skin in a relaxing, comfortable environment with minimal to no downtime. Smooth out fine lines, even skin tone, and restore that youthful glow. Find out how to look and feel your best at Dermagnify.com. Dermagnify.com.
Staying Alive, One Night of the Bee Gees comes to Jacksonville Center for the Performing Arts March 6th. A tribute like you've never seen before. Staying Alive features the songs and sights of a full Bee Gees playlist, performed live. Experience Night Fever, More Than a Woman, How Deep Is Your Love, and more live on stage. Staying Alive, One Night of the Bee Gees, March 6th at Jacksonville Center for the Performing Arts. Tickets at fscjartistseries.org.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Now, the cool down from the cool guys at Donovan Air Electric and Plumbing. Fast, reliable, and honest service since '87.
All right, cooling down here. Dylan had to sprint back into the control room. He was breaking down how popular the YouTube golf channels are. For us, Tone. Who knew, man? It's a brave new world. You consume your content the way you want to consume it. Hopefully, you want to consume a lot of 1010XL. We've got you out there on every platform imaginable, from Twitter to Facebook to YouTube to what have you. Do we have a TikTok account?
Yes, we do have TikTok. No Vine.
No Vine. Thank you. No MySpace?
No MySpace.
Okay. No AOL news group?
No Hotmail.
AOL news group, man. That was hot stuff back in the late 90s, Tony. Hang out there and talk fantasy football with the other nerds. All right, let's see. Thanks again to Gene Fournette, who told me via text that his nephew goes by Johnny. And so that's my bad, because he did text and he said, hey, tell him this is Johnny, right? From John's Automotive, who's one of our sponsors. But I didn't know. I didn't want to mention the business guy. I don't know if that's the case. That's why I asked Gene.
Yeah.
You have a nephew named John. No, I do not. Okay. Well, then that's why we don't just read these things. Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, you mean Johnny, my godson.
That guy. Yes. All right, Gene. We love you, brother. All right. So today, let's see. Poly question. Tony, our third in a series of these. RJ Soward and Blaine Gabbert have secured a spot in the runoff tomorrow. Right now, over 500 votes on this. So hope to get it up over 800 like the last couple of polls have done. So if you haven't voted yet and you're so inclined to waste 15 seconds of your life, just hop on Twitter, go to @MD_1010XL, and one-click that poll. Which of these three options was the worst first-round pick by the Jaguars? Taven Bryan, C.J. Henderson, Kayvon Chason. And we talk about, well, you could have had CeeDee Lamb instead of C.J. Henderson.
Yeah.
And you could have had Jefferson if you didn't take Kayvon Chason. Well, you could have had either one of them in place of C.J. Henderson. So you didn't have the options, some of the other options that went between the two. But here are some of the players that went between the two, Tony. Tristan Wirfs is one of the best tackles in the game. Would have locked down that position for the Jags and continue to lock it down. Jerry Jeudy has been a Pro Bowler, although, prior to this season has not been the impact receiver. In fact, Jerry Jeudy went ahead of CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah.
So you could say that's a pretty bad pick by the Broncos when Lamb went 2 picks later, but you could have had him. And we remember that Dave Caldwell loved Kayvon Chason so much that if Henderson wasn't available at 9, they would have taken Chase on there.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. I'd vote for CJ in this.
Yeah, like thinking it through, I think given what we saw Kayvon Chason do with the Raiders last year, at 5 sacks, which is equal to his total for the 4 years he was here in Jacksonville. So I think there's still at least the chance that Kayvon could
turn out to be a decent player.
Like a bottom door kind of okay pro.
Or at least like a third pass rusher for a team.
Like that kind of guy, which is what they kept telling us he was here. And every time they did, we'd go, what? No. What? No. Because he wasn't that while he was here. But he did an okay job of that last year. I think Taven Bryan's probably coming towards the wall right in his career. CJ's already hit it, right? Like his His career car has hit the wall and blown up already at this point in time. You go back and look at what CJ did in his time here in Jacksonville.
Yeesh.
His first game. He had an interception and 3 passes defense.
Dude's going to be a star.
Right. He never had another game in a Jaguars uniform with more than 1 pass defense. Right? And he had as many games with a pass defense the rest of that year before he had the IR stint as he had in the opening game. He had 3 more pass defense in the next 7 games. That's the kind of thing that was happening with CJ. Nothing happened that second year, played 2 games, and then they traded him. And he's done what?
Nothing.
Right? Nothing. His only career intercept. What?
That was it.
Nothing. CJ is. The other 2 guys are at least still playing. Right. In the National Football League, CJ is not, and I wouldn't be surprised if he really never gets a chance to do it again.
Well, and it was just the so many people made excuses. Oh, you can't judge him by his reaction on this video. Maybe he's just a reserve guy. I'm sorry. Anybody goes in the top 10 of the NFL draft and doesn't seem excited about it,
some kind of reaction.
That's got to be a red flag,
man. Your life just changed.
I mean, in a big, big way. You're right. So CJ didn't play at all last year. It's just the whole it seemed disinterested kind of thing. It's none of these guys' fault that they got taken where they got taken. You can't blame Bryan for going ahead of Lamar Jackson. We're not doing that. We're blaming the Jaguars for selecting these guys. Somebody asked the question, considering 2 of these guys came from 2020, which was the quote-unquote COVID draft, did we give any slack to the Jags? I don't.
No.
Every team had to deal with the same circumstance. There were a bunch of Pro Bowlers that were drafted in the first round after Henderson came off the board and a few after Kayvon Chason came off the board, plenty more in the second round and on and on and on. So anyway, it looks like CJ right now is crushing it with nearly 56% of the vote. When you've got 3 strong candidates, that's a pretty significant number. So he is going to advance, it looks like, to the runoff tomorrow. And we may take the second place vote gatherer who got the highest percentage of the votes. But we know that Soward will be in there, Gabbard will be in there, C.J. Henderson will be in there. It's the Mount Rushmore of first-round futility for the Jacksonville Jaguars, unfortunately. That's your Chad and Sandy real estate question of the day. Dylan, I feel like you have a good perspective being a young guy. You've seen all these guys play in their entirety here in Jacksonville. Who do you cast your vote for?
CJ by a little bit. It's hard to beat out Kayvon Chason, but CJ is the one. Even because I was at Florida, had a good freshman year, and then after was, he was okay. But when he got drafted, I was like, okay, this is like you're not excited. I mean, it's a top 10 pick. It's not. You're supposed to be, feeling a certain type of way, and I didn't feel that way. And it didn't take long for the truth to come out, and everything that was surrounding him and the love of football just wasn't there for him.
Somebody said they voted for Chason because we traded Ramsey for him. Actually, they got 2 first-rounders and a 4th-rounder for Jalen Ramsey when they made that deal, and that was one of them, though. And, yes, it was squandered. Granted, you can, again, you're free to vote however you like, right? But, to me, it's like we've got the pick. What did we do with the pick? What was available to us? How did that pick turn out? Did it work here in Jacksonville? To what degree? And then, to some degree, factoring in what they've done other places as well. But, again, that's how I look at it.
Yeah.
I
can understand if your frustration with them having had to trade Jalen Ramsey,
right? And this is what we got.
Spills over into what you feel about Kayvon Chason. I think they
got a good return for Jalen, a fair return for Jalen.
Yeah,
they didn't use that draft capital properly.
Yeah. In
that return, Bryan getting 33% of this vote, and Kayvon getting about 11.5%. And if it weren't for the beach training video, it might be like 6%.
Holy cow.
That alone probably worth 5% of the vote today, which was quite curious. Still is back in the day. But like you said, kind of had a breakout half season or whatever, the second half of the year for the Raiders last year.
Wasn't bad.
No, it wasn't terrible. Let's put it that way.
We got used to seeing a certain Kayvon Chason. That's apparently not the guy who made the trip to Vegas.
Yes, but he does still hold a spot on Mount Rushmore of worst Jaguar-related videos that we've ever seen, right? The Derek Harvey martial arts video. I don't know where you want to put any of that Jags, going to the Super Bowl stuff in the 90s when they didn't go to the Super Bowl, but whatever the case may be. So tomorrow, by the way, Tom McManus in, and D-Rock's going to join us on the program as well for a little visit, as hopefully we're getting down to the nitty-gritty on the Jaguars general manager search with these in-person interviews concluding in the next, roughly 24 hours or so. All right, with that, let's welcome in Helmets and Heels out at Florida Credit Union, First Florida Credit Union.
Now, the 2-minute drill. Serviced by Cool Cats Heating and Cooling. Locally owned and operated. We're your neighbors. Find the coolest cats in town at coolcatsjacks.com.
All right, we got Taylor Dahl here with us. Taylor, where are you guys broadcasting from today?
Yeah, we are out here at First Florida Credit Union. It's their new location off of Roosevelt. It's at the South Ortega Marketplace Shopping Center right in front of the Target. So we're hanging out right out front. A little chilly, but it actually feels kind of nice to me right now, honestly, Mike. But, yeah, a ton of stuff coming here because they're celebrating the new location. They're doing a balloon pop inside where you have the chance to win tickets to different sporting events and concerts around town. So some fun stuff happening, and you can come hang out with us.
Excellent. All right, what will the ladies be discussing today?
Yeah, we will. Actually, Hayes Carline's going to be jumping on with us today, so we'll be talking with him, I'm sure, about the Jaguars, and I'm sure about some Gator basketball that's been going on right now, maybe some just SEC Big Ten news we've been talking about. We also have Matt Hamilton joining us. He is the producer for the Up and Adams show with Kay Adams, and she recently had Trevor Lawrence on, obviously, so we'll dive into all things Trevor and Jags with Matt also.
All right, sounds good. Taylor, have a great show. We'll be listening.
Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you very much. Out of First Florida Credit Union with Helmets and Heels.
Based on the video there, I think the cold is affecting Mia more than it was affecting Taylor.
Mia's bundled up, man. Thought she was a northern girl. I don't know what's going on there. But, hey, whatever. It's nice. I like this.
I do, too.
Kind of temperatures, right? I wouldn't want it year-round, but for a month or two, I could deal with that kind of stuff. So, thanks again to Gus Logue for joining us in-house guy here at 1010XL, as well as over at Big Cat Country. And, of course, Gene Fournette of the Florida Times-Union. As mentioned, Tom McManus and Mike DeRocco tomorrow. And we will hopefully, at least, from your perspective, the folks who care to vote in the Jaguars Today polls determine who the worst first-rounder was in Jaguars history. And then we'll see who the best first-rounder was when we select him with the fifth pick in the draft coming up, Tony. It'll be a, Hall of Fame opportunity, I feel, for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Trying to put good positivity out there into the universe.
Yeah, and a special hello to Johnny the Godson.
Yes. Johnny did hit me up. He was laughing at it. He goes, yes, he does. But nephew, yes, Johnny, we appreciate you for making the show what it was today as well. For Tony Smith and Dylan Denmark, I'm Mike Dempsey. Stick around for Helmets and Heels. We'll be back again tomorrow from 10 to noon with more Jaguars Today. You're on 1010XL 92.5 FM.